Welcome to a Fresh Perspective podcast, catering to the latest in ingredient trends, consumer insights, and food news. Brought to you by Corbion.
Hello, and welcome to a Fresh Perspective podcast, a podcast where we talk about everything food. I have an excellent guest today. Her name is Abby Ceule. She is the Senior Director of Ingredient Solutions here at Corbion. Welcome, Abby.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me today, Jenny.
Absolutely. I'm excited that you made time to be here because we are going to talk about oil reduction. When I think about oil reduction, I don't know, the latest food trends and things that I see are, there are oils that are really good for you that you should try to, incorporate into your food. But it seems like right now we might be having an oil shortage. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, like many things in the food industry right now, we're seeing shortages not only due to some of the ongoing logistics issues kind of really driven by COVID, but also due to some other events going on around the world. So we're seeing a lot of things weather related. We're seeing the war in Ukraine, COVID, supply chain, all of these things having some kind of a negative effect on the ability to get the oils needed to where we need them.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I think we're going to talk about in one of the podcasts coming up about supply chain issues. But I think that affects our oil as well, right? Because not only is the war in Ukraine causing kind of a wheat shortage or maybe continuing to increase a wheat shortage for the entire world, but the same applies for palm oil. Is that right?
Yeah, so palm oil has a couple of different things that are affecting it. So one of the key things right now is also Indonesia. So they're the world's largest exporter of palm oil, and right now they're going through some export bans. And so what they're doing is keeping that, obviously a lot of regions are looking at the food supply chain, and they're wanting to make sure that they can, feed their countries, feed their regions first, and it's certainly understandably so. And so really when we rely on them for palm exports, their ban on that has quite a ripple effect throughout the industry. And in addition to Indonesia, we're seeing countries that make soy and canola oil also having some drought issues, be it Argentina, Brazil, Canada. So some of those regions are also having weather-related issues, which of course are very unpredictable,
right?
Like some of the other things. And so it's just really been a challenge to get it. And there's also some ideas that maybe we'll have some moderate relief later this year as we look at what's happening in the U.S. with our harvest with soy and corn. But of course, again, the weather. Who can predict the weather, especially right here in Kansas? But, we've got a couple of months to go before harvest. So some of those things can be unpredictable. But there's, different regions, different oil sources are all causing us issues right now.
Right. I grew up on a farm and you see everybody else's farms. You drive by them every day. And I think about how it's so hot. It feels like the surface of the sun right now in Kansas. And the corn fields that are, near where I live, they're not nearly as tall as they might typically be at this juncture. And I got to tell you, it makes me a little nervous. I mean, it's not even my cornfield, but, I think that the drought is truly having an effect here. So if we bring this back to baked goods, can you explain kind of what oil does for baked goods, like why it's important?
Yeah, so we use oils in a variety of different ways. Right here at Corbion, we use them in production for our emulsifiers, which is one of our key product lines that we've been historically leaders globally in emulsifier production. And when we use oil-based products in baking, they can be very functional. And that's why it's so challenging right now with where we're at. So in particular, we use oils in mono and dye production. So, and then also we'll use oil directly into some of the baked good formulas. But when we use oils and we use mono and dyes within our production of breads, buns, sweet goods, other items, it can provide a lot of processing benefits. So, as dough is going throughout industrialized production, it goes through lots of turns and it'll go down on different belts. And there's a lot of wear and tear on that dough. So it gives it strength throughout that process. It also helps with crumb structure and having a consistent quality crumb structure so that every time you get that loaf of bread, you get that same consistent look. But also it goes into mouthfeel, taste, texture, and even sliceability there in when you're producing the bread as well. So they're very functional and provide quite a bit of benefits in production.
Functional equals important.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think, so taste, texture, you mentioned monos and dyes. Can you explain to me a little bit what that is?
Yeah, so monos and dyes, mono and diglycerides, so they're emulsifiers, heavily used across the baking industry. And so as we have shortages in oils that go into the production of those items, as well as other emulsifiers, it causes quite an effect in the market. And so you would use those in conjunction with, there's enzymes, there's other oils that you can put into your formula. So there's lots of ways to get some of those similar functions, but what we found is mono and diglycerides are extremely functional. They do a lot of things. And so they've become, a really go-to tool for bakers over the years.
I can see that. I mean, so we've established that it's important. Oils are important in baking, especially for the functional side. But I mean, even taste and texture and sliceability. We've established that there is a shortage. Mm-hmm. So what can bakers do? Do they try to reduce the amount of oil they use? And if so, how can they do that and still maintain their products as their consumers would, expect them to be?
Yeah, so I think it's definitely something on the minds of bakers. What do we do about this problem? We've been working on it with them on supply chain. And I think the biggest thing is to really have a long-term vision of, what products do I have? What changes am I willing to make? I think it's important right now for bakers to be adaptable. I mean, it's not just the oils and oil-based products, but so many raw materials are short right now. So I think bakers are doing a great job of being adaptable to the changes. But I think kind of look at that long-term vision to say, okay, what's my planning needs? And so if I want to stay with mono and dyes or oils, I need to make sure that I'm planning for that, looking at lead times, working with suppliers. The other thing I would say is look at those different options. And one thing, we wanted to talk about today is Corbion's developed Vantage 2060, which is a product that can eliminate the need for mono and diglycerides and reduce oil pretty significantly in bread and bun formulas. So I think, like I said, going back to that adaptability piece, let's look at some different solutions. So this is an enzyme-based solution. And we spent some time over the past 6 to 9 months, even a year. I think it's probably been a year that we've been looking at this product and saying, okay, how do we mimic what mono and dyes do? Because they're so powerful. And oil, they do so much. How do you account for all that? So what we've tried to put together is, and we really is a solution enzyme-based that can take those mono and dyes out. It can reduce the oil, but you're still going to get that same taste, texture, mouthfeel, those same processing improvements. You're going to get that same consistent crumb structure. And the key one, the big challenge is sliceability. So
really?
when you're moving bread through, you've got these industrial slicers that are slicing the bread as it's coming down the line, and they're moving very fast. You don't want that bread to collapse. You don't want the slicers to gum up. And so you remove mono and dyes, they start to gum up. You've got to stop the line. It's a challenge. You got to clean it off more often. This allows you to just keep on moving. And so that was one key thing that's been a challenge for the industry over the years is, can I replace mono and dyes and can I still get sliceability? So I think we really wrap that up in the solution. And I think, Corbion has a lot of emulsifier history. We've got so much enzyme knowledge, and we have just taken all those things and put it together in the solution. I really think we've got a winner out there.
Nice. And so the name of this product is Vantage, is that what you said?
Yeah, Vantage 2060.
2060. And this is available right now.
Yeah, the product's available right now for sampling with us. And so, we've also got so many resources here at Corbion to make sure that it works within, our customers, our bakers out in their plants. So, our technical service team is trained on this item and can really get in there and help to make it work in somebody's solution.
That kind of leads into my next question. So if you're a baker and you'd like to try this solution, I would expect that you might have to do a little figuring, do a little working with it to make sure that it's, you do still get the same taste and texture that that is, your quality standard. How would a baker go about doing that? Does Corbion have a way to help them, or, what's the best way for them to get started?
Yeah, absolutely. So great question. So I think the first thing to get started is a baker just to reach out to us. And what we'll do is we'll take a look and say, hey, what's your processing conditions currently? Why are you using the mono and dyes in the oil? What's it doing in your formula? What is your formula? What's your shelf life? What are you trying to do with it? And then we go when we start to, our applications team spend a lot of time with the solution. And I think that they've got a pretty good idea of where to start, what usage rate to start out with. And then we've got a great technical service team that has hundreds of years experience, if you add it all up, of working in industrial bakeries, but also working in smaller bakeries as well. And so they go out and they'll do it right there with you on the line. Let's run some tests. Let's see how it works. And, we'll make adjustments as we go. But I think that there's a wealth of resources here at Corbion to make it happen.
That's excellent. So it's a little scary to make a change, right? In a recipe that you've been using forever and ever, and it's your tried and true. I mean, shoot, I have that at my house here. It's like, oh, we can't really afford that ingredient anymore because it's now 4 times what it used to cost, and you got to change it up a little bit. So it's nice to know that you as a business owner, you would have help. Yeah,
you have help. And I think here's the cool thing about the solution is I think that, eventually we hope oil prices come down, driving some of this down. But I think that if you put in the solution, it gives you some kind of long-term protection. So, you can't predict, like we said, we can't predict the weather. I'm also a Kansas farm girl. We know we can't predict the weather.
No, right.
And so other weather issues are going to happen. God forbid another catastrophic world event happens that has an issue on the supply chain, but we just don't know these days. And so you put this solution in, and now you've lessened your exposure to fluctuations in the oil market, whether it be weather-driven, catastrophic event-driven. Right. You've given yourself something that's just kind of insulating you from that. So I think this helps you down the line too.
Heck yeah, risk reduction at its best right there, right?
Exactly. Absolutely.
And you don't have to worry about things like spoilage or in the long term, like you would if you're, I think that when we talk about wheat, we talk about spoilage a lot. And, when I think about oils, not nearly as much, but
right.
I think all this kind of hedges your bets and gets you a little further down the line towards feeling nice and secure about your products.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're coming in and like I said, the biggest thing is we're going to be there with you every step of the way. We've got a lot of great knowledge that backs up why we think the solution's a winner in the market, but we're ready to partner with people.
Excellent. Man, I hope people give you a call and
absolutely
get moving on this. It's very exciting. Okay, well, that's really all we have time for. Thank you so much. It flew. Time flew. I can't even believe
we're fast.
We're so fast. I'd love to have you back. I love talking about, kind of some of the solution-based products that we have here. I think it would be very comforting to me if I were a business owner and worked in these industries, in the production side of things. So love to have you back. This is great.
Absolutely. No, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Sounds great. All right. Till next time, everybody, preserve what matters.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to a Fresh Perspective podcast brought to you by Corbion. Please like, subscribe, and follow us on thebakerstake.com and thecorbioncut.com. Until next time, preserve what matters.